Guys, today we're going to be installing some Kuryakyn torpedo lights for the rear of the bike. These are integrated taillights that do the running light, the brake light, as well as the blinkers. So the idea is that we're going to be mounting them right where the old passenger pegs used to be, so down here. That way they're going to be nicely tucked away and and as well as visible, but also quite clean, so we don't need to like mount them here or anything else of that sort and make complex bracketry. So really all we'll need is a bracket that can be mounted via these two bolts, as well as have a hole for this particular bolt. So let's measure these out with some cardboard and see how we're going to mount them. I'm taking some measurements. This is kind of the bracket we're going to need. So it's a rectangular piece, and that is 6 centimeters wide and 5 centimeters tall. So that's 5 centimeters here. And we have 3 holes. 2 are for the peg mounts, so these will go in there. They're about 1.75 centimeters from each side and 2.5 centimeters apart. And then we have the other hole, which is for the actual light, which would be here, and that's centered, so 3 centimeters from each side and 3.7 centimeters in. And we'll just need to drill them to the right size. So let's cut out these pieces out of metal. I think for the job we're probably going to end up using the thinner sheet metal, just because this is definitely not wide enough. Yeah, this is only about half, and we wouldn't be able to do it with that, so we're going to use the 16 gauge sheet metal for this bracket. I don't need them to be super sturdy, and I think at this size with this many bolts in them, that will be okay. So let's cut out 2 rectangular pieces, mark them up for drilling, and drill some holes, and then test fit. Alright, I made the 2 plates. They're kind of stacked right on top of each other right now, and I marked the top one just so that the holes on both of them are identical. I measured out and punched them so that the drill can go in. And let's make some holes so that these bolts and the light bolts can fit. Alright, and here's the 2 brackets. Let's test fit everything, see how it looks, and then we're going to shape these a little bit more and spray them, and then we're going to turn our attention back to the lights and the electrical. Okay, and with the brackets on, this is how the lights look like. They're like right there and right there. So we have them pointed backwards. Once they are wired up, they should be nice and bright and visible and tucked away so that you actually don't see them. So that's great. So let's figure out what we're going to do with the wiring. Each of the tail lights comes with 4 wires. In terms of where these things wire to, I will need to take off the seat and the electronics band. There is a plastic plug that the old harness for the rear used to plug into, so we're going to make use of that and plug into it, and then we're going to route everything behind here somewhere and tuck it away nicely so that it's not visible and is out of the way. The brackets themselves, I did need to shave them on the back a little bit because they were kind of going on the slanted side and they were getting crooked, so that's why they're curved like that on the back. I also will likely curve them in the front, so they're a bit nicer, not this like straight edge looking thing. And yeah, so let's grind these down to a little bit of a better shape, and then we'll start doing the wiring. I ended up grinding the brackets to these like fidget spinner shapes, and I just gave them a coat on one side with black paint. So let's leave that to dry. Let's get the seat off in the electronics pan so that we can take a look at what we're doing with the electronics. Alright, so this is the main plug for the rear light harness. and this is what we're going to plug into. So I'm going to make a kind of intermediate harness that plugs into it and kind of tucks under here, and under there it splits to go both ways. So one way would kind of come in and then go out through here and then towards the left light, and the other way would kind of come back, and same sort of idea, tuck in through here and go towards the bracket down there. The one on this side will be just direct plug-in, all 4 wires. So that would be the ground, running light, brake light, and the turn signal. The one coming this way would be again those 4 wires, but we'll also split off the ground and the running light into a separate plug-in harness, so that when we do end up making the license plate holder, we do have the plug and play for the light for the license plate. So let's map that out quickly on a piece of paper, what we need, and then we're going to start doing some wiring. Alright, so this is kind of the electrical diagram that we're going to need. So this is the existing harness plug-in, which has a black wire, which is the ground, a black and pink wire, which is the running light, a yellow light, that's the yellow wire, that's the brake, brown green or brown gray, which is the right turn, and a green gray, which is the left turn. So those wires we're gonna match the plug with the 5 wires going into it, and then from the bottom up we have the ground, running, brake, right turn and then left turn. So the right turn we're gonna route directly to a separate plug going back the other way to the right side of the bike. The ground, running light, and brake light we're gonna split and then match those into a 4 plug, and then the light itself we're gonna shorten the cable and make a 4 plug on it so it plugs in. The ground, running, and brake light will continue on to the right side, or to the left side, and the left turn signal wire will just continue on to that. The ground and running will then split off one more time into a separate plug and continue on to the 4 plug here, where we're going to do the same thing that we did here, but patch it to the left side light. And then the 2 that we split off, which is the ground and the running light, these will make a 2 plug, which will later on plug the license plate light onto. So let's measure up some cable and start making this. And here is the intermediate harness for the backlights. So we have the main plug that will plug into the bike harness. Off of that we have black, blue, yellow, green, and white. Black being the ground, blue being the running light, yellow being the brake light, and the white and green are the turn signals. The green is the right turn signal, and the white is the left turn signal. So the green and the white, as you can see, they kind of go directly to these 2 plugs. The blue, black, and yellow all get split up between the 2. And then the blue and black get split up one more time to go into this other plug, which will be this one right here, which is for the license plate light. So let's wrap this up with some electrical tape, just to have it a little bit better insulated. And then we're going to place it inside of actually plug it in and place it on the bike, exposing these plugs so that we can see how much we need to trim the lights themselves. And then we're going to just put in these plugs on the lights themselves, so they can just be directly plug and play. The only kind of tricky bit is because the wire runs through the middle of the bolt, I will have to wait for the brackets to be fully painted so I can put them on, and then essentially the rear tail lights will be kind of like permanently fixed to those brackets, and then the two other bolts that hold the bracket will be used to essentially remove the light, and then using the plugs to directly unplug it. So let's wrap this up and get it on the bike. And here's our harness all wrapped up. Let's go plug it in and route all the cables. So here's how the harness is routed. So we plugged it into the main harness here, and then it goes down the part that splits off back to the right side and goes through here, and then it tucks in through there, coming out right behind the thing. And the bracket will be here for the light, so we have this very short cable where this could just be plugged in. On the other side, it keeps going down here, and it will be tucked in behind the cover on this side, and again with the two plugs going over to the other side where we can plug them in and plug in the tail light and the license plate light later on. So let's pop this back on. I think in terms of wiring up here, we're good. And let's take a look at the tail lights and how long the cables need to be for them. All right, and our two brackets are finally painted and dry. Let's put the actual lights through them and mount them. We'll just snug the bolts on there and also put the end pieces on the cables, so that once we mount them on the bike, we can just plug everything in and test it. And here's how the tail lights look like on the fully assembled bike. Let's check out how they function. We have running lights, pretty visible, I'd say. Brake lights, both turn signal. Turn signal the other way. Turn signal and brake. Alright, so just to kind of wrap up how things look, this is obviously nice and clean with the bracket kind of keeping it in place. The cable is tucked under and away behind this cover where it plugs in. On the other side, same sort of story, nicely tucked. The cable goes in, and it's actually, you can see it here, this white plug, that's where it plugs into the harness. So that's it, tail lights are done. Next is the license plate, which we're probably gonna mount somewhere around, I'm gonna aim for something like here, obviously not to block the tail light. I was debating maybe making a bracket that tucks it in kind of a bit further in, so it's not way out to the side. So maybe that's an option too. But I'll see. In either case, I will probably mount to this bolt where the rear fender is mounted, or yeah, I'll see how I'll do it, but either there or something that mounts off of these two bolts that anchors it in a way so it doesn't rotate up and down. Yeah, maybe we'll tuck it here. That's another option. I mean, the vertical option is there, but I feel like it's going to cover the tail light. So we need to figure out something else for that. But that will all be in the next episode. Guys, that was it for this episode. The tail lights and rear turn signals are on. Bike is getting closer to being roadworthy. In the next episode, we're going to be making a bracket for this guy so that we can get it fully roadworthy and actually take it out for its first ride as a bobber. So thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, hit the little bell for when notifications when new videos become available. Check me out on Instagram at Balkan Moto 2018 and check out balkanmoto.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.